Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn KERBECK. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, where we proudly provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. Today's show is The Wise Ones. And as you can see, I am not Red O'Loughlin. He has the day off. I'm Dr. Jacalyn KERBECK, and it's my absolute pleasure and honor to host this show today. So if you haven't done so far, what are you waiting for? Please subscribe to our YouTube channels, USA Global TV and Radio, where we have earned the YouTube Silver Creator Award for surpassing 100,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. So today we have a very special guest who's been with us before, which I absolutely love when people join us again. Joining us today is Pat Daly, a former U.S. Air Force test pilot, and NASA engineer who worked at Johnson Space Center on both the Space Shuttle and International Space Station programs. Today, he's the CEO of Boundary Layer Incorporated, a human performance specialist and a science fiction author, best known for his novel Spark and its sequels. Let's welcome Pat to the program today and find out what Pat's been up to, joining us from the great state of Texas. Hello and welcome, Pat.
Thanks, Dr. Jacalyn. Pleasure to be back.
It's a pleasure to have you. What have you been up to in the last couple of years since we've seen you?
Oh, gosh, it's been a minute, hasn't it? I think when I was on your show the first time, I just had one book out. Now I have a total of 5 out, 4 in the Spark series and 1 nonfiction. So been busy along those lines. And I think I was living in Texas last time I was on, but if not, I've moved to Texas, or moved back to Texas, I should say. And other than that, keeping professionally busy writing and consulting and doing those kind of things.
Well, Pat, for people who are listening later after the show goes live on a podcast-only platform, we are showing your website. And on the website, we have these 3 visuals. Tell our audience what we're looking at, please.
Okay, you're looking at the covers of the 3 major novels of what I call the Spark Chronicles. It's a science fiction series that starts with Spark. And it's a near future sci-fi series that has younger protagonists. They're both 16 when it starts. So it gets lumped into YA a lot, but it's actually, I think, more for the young at heart. And because most of my readers, it turns out, are a little more seasoned in life than the average 16-year-old. And that story, the 2 protagonists, Will Kwon is a war orphan from what is the Second Korean War in my book. And he meets, his mom dies in his arms when he's 13. He ends up in the foster care system. Just not a happy life. And at 16, huge misunderstanding at his foster home, and he ends up running away. So he runs away to this place called Spark, which is Solar Prime Augmented Reality Park. And it's a Disney scale theme park using augmented reality technology, so that you can not just, you just don't see the little animatronic people in small world, you actually can interact with virtual creatures and actually fight virtual creatures. And along the way, he meets this young woman named Shakri Patel, and she goes by the avatar name of Feral Daughter. And at first they butt heads, and they end up holding hands, and that romance continues throughout the series. Oh, spoiler alert! A little retroactive spoiler alert there. And along the way, they befriend an AI, and they survive some pretty horrific stuff, as authors tend to do to their creations. And yeah, it wraps up in Embers, the last novel in the series. There's a little novella there in the middle of it called Orkland that you don't see the cover for that on the website yet. So that's what Spark is all about. And I also blog on my website, and in honor of one of my protagonists, it's the Feral Daughters blog.
Well, thank you for sharing all of that with us. You have quite an impressive and incredible background. I don't think I've ever met anyone who has quite the background that you have. So can you tell us how you parlayed all of your experience in education and knowledge into writing? Because you made a big shift. You're out there taking what I would say huge risks, but let's say they're calculated risks, right?
Yeah.
And now you're actually writing, which is also risk related in some ways, but the background that you have is so unique. So how much of what you've done in the past did you actually include into your writing?
Okay, thank you for that. I'd say that my science and engineering and pilot background factor enormously into my writing, in that I'm very careful about the science that I put in my science fiction. I try to make it as realistic as possible. Now, because I'm postulating stories that are going to happen in the future, I'll also take a little liberty of extrapolating science where it is now and postulating that into the stories of where I think it could be rationally, realistically in the time frame of the stories. So that and my work at NASA factors into a lot of this. In fact, the whole Solar Prime thing which shows up throughout the books, is a solar power farm. And that is based on a thing I used to fly past almost every day when I was a test pilot out at Edwards Air Force Base. There was this enormous reflective solar power collector. And I mean, it was painful to look at. It had so much sunlight hitting it. But I chose that location as the location for my theme park, because I think solar power's got a lot to offer. I don't think we're quite to the point where we're going to replace other forms of electric generation, but I think we can take a lot of weight off the grid by using solar power.
Thank you so much, Pat. I imagine if I met you in person, it wasn't a virtual environment, and we were at some networking event, that you would be commanding the entire room, because I think that you are probably an expert when it comes to storytelling, and the life that you have been leading is so interesting. So when would you say storytelling became a big part of what you're doing today?
Well, if you listen to my sister, she says I've made stuff up since I was a kid. And that could have been just what I was telling my parents or telling her. But I've always had the bug. I grew up with the original Star Trek series, and my very first foray into writing, to actually putting a story down on paper, was actually fan fiction for Star Trek, the original series. And so I've always wanted to do it, but life tends to get fairly busy. Particularly when you have kids, and I have two. And so it always took kind of second place to what was really paying the bills for my family. And then when things started slowing down a little bit, once my daughters were out of the house and lives of their own, then I started getting serious about writing again. And I started writing about a year before COVID hit. And then when COVID hit, I was up in Moses Lake, Washington at the time, working on an airplane called the Space Jet. And, everybody got shut down. So it's like, okay, I can't go to work. I can't do that kind of stuff. So let me go full-time writing. And so I finished the first novel. I finished the 8 rewrites that it went through before I got happy enough with it, and honestly before agents and publishers were willing to accept it. And so it got published right towards the end of COVID, I believe, in 2021. And then since then, I've been on a roll. Fire came out in 23, as did Orkland, and then Embers came out in just the end of last year, 25. So since a kid, apparently, I've been making stuff up, and now I'm just putting it down on paper and turning it into a book.
Well, it's working for you, so congratulations on that.
Thank
And
you.
kudos to your sister for pointing that out. So what would you say that aerospace engineering really has taught you about discipline that maybe creative writing didn't or hasn't, or vice versa? Because there's actually discipline in both, right? But they come through in different ways. And so to me, when I think about what your career must have been like in my mind, the story that I'm telling myself, and then seeing you at a desk sitting and writing, they seem like two different things, but both require discipline and both require creativity. So how would you react to that?
Oh, I think you're absolutely correct. The discipline is to do anything well, you have to show up and you have to pay attention to your environment. And admittedly, the consequences of not paying attention in an airplane at Mach 2 or at 800 knots down 100 feet off the ocean are far higher than they are when I'm sitting at my desk and I make a typo or a grammatical error in my manuscript. But they both require you to show up, and they both require you to have some discipline as you go about the work. So doing the study, I mean, if you're a pilot, you're studying all the time because you have to stay up on top of what the regulations are, up on top of your airplane, its capabilities, the do's and don'ts of that particular aircraft. So you're always studying, and that led me to do a lot of research for my novels. I try to make them as true to science and as true to at least the world geopolitically as I see it going in the near future. So the discipline to do the research is critical to it, because I mean, there's science fiction and there's fantasy. And if you want to have a world and say, well, the snow is pink because I like pink, that's great. But let's not call it science fiction unless you've got a reason for the snow being pink. If it's something other than water, or if there's something different in the atmosphere or different in the sun, then okay, you've given me something to hang my hat on and call it science fiction. Otherwise, let's call it fantasy, and I'm a fan of fantasy as well.
And as writers, we learn to embrace uncertainty. But yet, as a pilot, as an engineer, uncertainty is not necessarily a friend. So, how do you marry those two together?
I think the biggest part of that is putting myself on the line, my ego, and my creation when I write something. So I think I've never had that question before, and it's a good one. So let me reintroduce my answer to that. The uncertainty, the risk is there, but it's different. In flight test, we deal with that uncertainty by getting a bunch of really smart people together, and then they bring the pilot in. So I'm not one of the really smart people, but we spent a lot of time playing what if. What if this goes wrong? What if the aircraft doesn't react the way we think it should? What if there's a fire? Where am I going to be doing this test? So we play a lot of those scenarios out in the 1G 0 knot environment, so as safely as you can. And as a writer, we do kind of the same thing. We put our soul, our ego, everything out into our pages, and then we start taking the risk, and the risks feel a lot different. It somehow feels more personal. When an airplane tries to kill you, it's not a personal issue. It's not because it just doesn't like you. It's because it doesn't like anybody, or it doesn't like what you're trying to make it do. With the manuscripts or the books I write, I have to subject them to the sometimes scathing critiques of my writing group, or the beta readers that come when I think I've got the manuscript ready to go. They're the last set of eyes that look at them, and man, they can be brutal, and it's hard not to take it personally, especially when I still have it up on my wall. One of the first critiques I got was correcting me on a grammatical thing, and the line I remember is, "My God, do you even speak English?" I thought, well, that's a bit of a spear in the chest, but I think I can get over that. And then there's the other side too. You get the fan mail, and that's really nice as well.
Well, I can appreciate that. And it's also really nice when people give feedback in a constructive manner, right? It sounds like that one was really attacking you. And so please give feedback in a constructive manner. Say something nice, then give the feedback, and then say something nice. So you have focused a lot on human behavior. And so if you think about high-performing individuals, many of whom could be watching this show, it's the wise ones. What do you think really differentiates people who are high performers when they're in a high stressful environment? So as a pilot, for example, that's high stress to the general public. To you as a pilot, it might not be that stressful, but yet we're relying on you. So how does someone who is a high performer like yourself deal with high stress situations?
I think it starts out with professional discipline. You're generally, most professions, even medicine, even writing, you're given a set of constraints generally. Now, if you're somebody that is at the top of the field, then you can say, you know what, I want this book to be 800 pages long because I think it deserves to be 800 pages long. For somebody like J.K. Rowling, works. And she does well with that. For somebody like me, who's a little younger in terms of that, you have to be disciplined enough to cut stuff out that doesn't directly serve the story, so that people will be more inclined to join in the story. So I think discipline is number one. You got to know the rules. You have to follow the rules, unless you're so good that you can break some of those rules. And then I think attention to detail comes up second. So, and by that, I mean not just the details of the science, although that matters too, but the details of what's going on in the environment. And I think that people that perform well in high-risk industries have quite a bit of situational awareness. They are aware not just of what they're doing, because that's really critical usually, but what the people in their team, or sometimes even in their building or working on the project, are doing. So you have to attend to that. And that's not just looking and seeing what they're doing, it's listening, and sometimes it's listening for things that aren't there. So it's a little of those two: discipline, attention to detail. I'd say those are 1 and 2.
That's terrific. And by the way, for our audience, we have no script. So Pat has no idea what I'm going to ask Pat, and I don't have any idea what I'm going to ask either. But along this same topic, what I'm wondering is, in extreme situations, like stressful situations where there might be a high risk, could be high risk, high reward, what do you think is most important? Is it intelligence? Is it the ability to control your emotions? Or is it your dynamics with your team?
Ooh, that's another good question. I'd say if you're in a high risk, high stress environment, you need to have your amygdala under control. You can't just react as if everything is life threatening. Most of the people I know that are test pilots or astronauts that work in those kind of personal risk environments generally don't get scared or nervous when things start going wrong. They get a little bit angry, and not a lot angry, because that can drive you in the wrong direction, but a little bit angry. So tamping down on your emotions, and then in a more team environment, like with a lot of the flight tests we did, it's me all by myself in the airplane, and then we have a control room on the ground, and the control room, they hear every breath I take, every grunt I make when I'm pulling G's. We're all together before the flight, and we talk about what's going to happen and when. And you have to pay attention to the team as much as the team pays attention to you, because you're not a one-person show up there. You've got a whole support system, and even the softest spoken, least experienced person can bring up a critical thing. I have a surgeon associate who, cardiothoracic surgeon, doing some work, and they've got an intern in the operating room, or actually a medical student in the operating room, observing what's going on. Well, things start going wrong. And the docs and the anesthesiologists and the nurses, everybody starts going faster and faster, trying to figure out what the problem is. And finally, this soft voice from the corner says, "Well, doctor, there's a lot of blood dripping on the floor." Ooh, let's look at that. So yeah, you got to pay attention to your team. And even the least experienced person on the team may have in that case, life-saving bit of information. So you can't discount them.
I love that you brought that up. That is an excellent point. Thank you. So I want to talk a little bit about my understanding of your interest in gaming. So I will just give secret to the audience, which is I love reality TV. I don't watch network TV, so to speak, or cable, but I'm a huge fan of Traders, The Housewives. I don't really know if that's gaming. But anyway, I want to talk about what is gaming and what is it about gaming that interests you, Pat?
Okay. Well, since you brought up Traders, I'm going to have to say, yeah, okay, my guilty pleasure as well. My wife and I watched an episode last night, and we find ourselves actually, this is really bad to do in a theater, but it's okay to do in the privacy of your own home. If you start yelling at the TV or at the people on the TV, they can't hear you, but it makes you feel better. So gaming, and I also, I like other reality TV shows as well. Survivor is probably my big one. But where gaming factors into all of this is a game actually led to my first novel, the concept of this augmented reality park. Both my daughters at the time were playing a game called Pokemon Go. And it's usually a cell phone based game where you don't do a heck of a lot. You just wander around in a park, or as you're walking your dog, and you're trying to catch these little Pokemon creatures that pop up. But the interesting thing to me that triggered this whole cascade of ideas was that as I'm looking at my phone, I'm seeing the real world in the background, and up pops this little Pokemon, a virtual creature superimposed on the real background. And I thought, whoa, what a cool idea. And if we could do that in a theme park, it would be a game changer for gaming. The other thing is I've been a gamer since Pong came out. So I've always loved playing the arcade games, and I've graduated in my adulthood to console-based gaming, Xbox, PS5, those kind of things. And what I like about them is that they are almost a social simulator. It's really interesting to hear and see people interact that are hundreds, thousands of miles away, that are playing the same game at the same time as you, and how they communicate and how they make decisions either independently or as a group. So beyond the fact that you get to go out and slay some orcs and save the village or save the world, and I find that a lot of fun. It's a fascinating look at culture and communication as well.
And Pat, I just have to share with our audience, in case they don't know, Survivor season 50 launched last night. Hello.
Yeah.
And tonight is the conclusion of Traitors. I think it's season 4. So we're not paid spokespersons. Are you paid for this, Pat?
I am not.
Okay, neither am I. So anyway, let the games begin. So what I want to talk about in reference to that is I love gaming in that you can actually get to understand what motivates people. And in the beginning, if you think of these reality TV shows, it's about building partnerships, getting to know one another. And then it's about the money, right? It's like, I've got to get the money. I'm taking that title home. So when it comes to social dynamics, how much of what we see in these reality TV shows actually mirrors how life is? Because we're looking at individuals, and I know some of them are compensated, but when we watch network television or we watch something where there's actors who are paid to do something, it's not the same, I don't feel, as when we're watching reality TV. But how much of what we see actually mirrors what goes on in life when it comes to social interaction about being supportive and wanting to help other people, or just going for the money?
Yeah, I think you get a lot of people that are, show me the money. That's what matters, and I'm willing to stab anybody in the chest if that'll get me one step closer to the $1 million or whatever the prize pot is. But I think that that's just a surface level reaction. That if you start looking at the interpersonal dynamics between players, there was, I think it might have been in last season, Survivor. There was a woman player who was is autistic. I mean, she's still alive, so she is autistic. But she had fought her way through life to get a PhD. So she had battled this autism her entire life. And there ended up being a dynamic between her, and she was late 20s, early 30s maybe, and a gentleman who was probably 50. And it almost became like a father-daughter dynamic. And he put his game at risk when she was having an episode to go to her and comfort her. And it had been a secret hidden alliance. But in that moment of, oh my God, here's another human having problems, and I can do something about it. And I'm not going to just stand by and do nothing, even if it ends up costing me my shot at $1 million. So I think there's a lot that is real. I think sometimes people rehearse sound bites that they want to throw out, and they come off as a little too glib and a little too, I think, harsh sometimes. But I think you don't have to scratch that deep before you find the real human being and the real human interaction underneath.
I totally agree with you. And by the way, just another secret admission, Squid Games, there was a father and daughter that, I don't know if you saw that, but I think when it comes down to it, when you have real connections with people, there's no amount of money that's going to be worth sacrificing a relationship that you have with someone if you really value it. And so I just love the whole philosophy behind gaming when it's for the human collective. So in other words, I'm a peace ambassador, so I like to see people helping one another, and not as much just it's always about the money, but it's like, you get the money, what are you doing with the money? How are you helping other people with the money? So as I digress, but so I'd love to have you tell us, what is it that really brings you enjoyment when you're not writing or you're not storytelling? What else is it that you're doing?
Okay. I revisited my whole life about 5 years ago. I had a friend, he'd retired from the airlines, And we were talking about, okay, what are your priorities in life? And what are your priorities? And I said, well, he goes, rank them 1 to 20. And well, that's a lot. I don't know if I have 20 priorities in my life. But he told me a Warren Buffett story, Warren Buffett of Berkshire Hathaway fame. And I'm probably getting this wrong, but the essence is correct. So bear with me. He said he would tell people that work with him and for him, okay, list your top 20 priorities. Okay. Now, nobody has time in their lives to service 20 priorities. So take 11 through 20, get rid of them. He said, then once you've done that, I want you to take 6 through 10 and get rid of them, because you can really only balance or only work so many priorities, and 5 seemed to be the number that worked for him. So I thought about that. I thought about it a lot, because I found myself sometimes I would be wanting to write or wanting to do something, or even having just a pesky little chore that needed to get done, like mow the lawn. And the kids or grandkids would be over, and it's like, oh, damn it, I needed to get the lawn mowed. Well, that's a misplaced priority. And so I re-racked my priorities so that family's number one. Now I'm a Christian, and I know that some people are going to say, no, God, I would be number one. But honestly, family's number one, friends are number two. Then I say God, and then I put paid consulting and writing. So that has freed me up tremendously, because even if I feel a deadline nagging at me and I've got the chance to be with my grandkids or my kids, that's a higher priority. So they give me a lot of joy. Just seeing another human being grow up and hoping to help get them on a path to not necessarily financial success, but life success, to help them understand who they really are and what really matters, is hugely rewarding.
That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And it gives us a little bit of more insight into you. Pat, you have tremendous experience and credibility, and you are a terrific speaker. If people are looking for speakers who have expertise like yours, what would you say the audience will take away from your keynote?
Like most speakers, I try to leave them with actionable things. A short bullet list, no more than 4 or 5. But what are the top takeaways from what you're talking about? And if you're talking to a group of aspiring writers, one of the things I say, and this is not my quote, not my philosophy, but somewhere along the line, I read that an author said, write fast, write bad, write wrong. And then you get your first draft out, and then you can go back and fix everything. But if you spend all your time working on trying to fix everything in the first draft, you never finish. So yeah, have a few walk-away points. Fast, bad, and wrong. Check your ego at the door is another one, because in really any kind of professional environment, we need feedback to get better. And feedback, when I was working in corporate America, and still sometimes, I find that honest feedback, is nearly impossible to get, even in your annual performance review, because no one wants to tell you that you've got an ugly baby. No one wants to tell you that you wear too much aftershave. No one wants to tell you that you never show up on time. And so they just put a little happy, glad stuff out there, and everybody's average. And that's a horrible disservice to everyone. I mean, even the lowest performer on any given team, I believe, can get better if they are properly coached and given accurate, honest feedback. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be brutal or ugly in delivering the feedback. It's like that feedback sandwich that you were talking about earlier. You know, tell them about the stuff they're doing good, give them that feedback, and then wrap it up with, hey, remember, we're happy to have you here. You're a valued member of the team, and go from there.
Agreed. I think one additional thing I might add is asking for permission. Pat, how would you feel if I shared some feedback with you today? Yeah, I don't want it. You might say I don't want it, and then I'm not going to give it. But also, I loved what you just dovetailed onto that, which is after giving the feedback, we're here to support you. Let us know how we can help you go to the next level or incorporate some of the feedback that we gave to you. So I really enjoyed this. And we're actually out of time, Pat. Can you believe it?
Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, hey, Dr. Jacalyn, it has been great to be here. I really appreciate you having me back on your show. Congratulations on the Silver Award. And
thank you.
Hope to see you again soon.
Pat, before you go, who's a good client for you and how can people reach you?
Okay. Mickey Mickelson at Creative Edge handles all my public relation things. But the best way to get in touch directly with me is through my website, and it's thepatdaily.com. Why the? Is it because of my ego? No, it's because somebody was squatting on patdaily.com. And now there's a billion other extensions that I could have used, but hey, I'm there on thepatdaily.com. So, and there's my Facebook page, Pat Daily Author. And if you look at Instagram, I am Pat Daily Pics, Pics. Yeah.
All right.
So that's the best way to get me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. We'll look forward to having you back. I'd love to have you on one of my shows, which is Judgment, the Hidden Sin. So do book in for that.
Ooh, I would love to be on that.
Fantastic. Well, I look forward to interviewing you there. So take good care of yourself, and thanks for the time.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. Take care.
Thank you. Bye for now. All right, that concludes the end of our show. Red Olafin will be back next week. So thank you to each and every one of you. Please do connect with Pat. I say this at the end of every show. People are here giving their time and their expertise, and you never know where a connection's going to go. So just check the show notes, whatever platform you're watching on, and do connect with Pat. Reach out, because otherwise you'll never know what you're missing. And for those of us who are Traders fans, tonight's the night. Okay, so let's watch and see who's going to be the victor. All right. Thanks again for watching. Our next show is coming up. If you would like to, you can join our team by going to usaglobaltv.com/book your session to be a guest on one of our shows. And if you'd like to have your own show, what? Yes, we're actively looking for show hosts who want to have their own show, especially in languages outside of English, French, and German, because we have shows in those languages. But we'd love to hear from you, and my contact details are in the show notes. Thanks again for being here. We're off, and we'll be back with our next show. Bye, everyone. USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram-Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book, Dementia Home Care, How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to tracycramperkins.com. Tracy Cram-Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn KERBECK. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.